Well, this is Dr. Richard Barwell, and I have a guest on with me today that is, we're brothers in our love for the profession and our dedication to the profession. I respect this man immensely. We've known one another for several years, but we had a major event that I really want to talk about. This is Dr. Bob Hoffman, owner of the Master Circle, which is, to my mind, the finest. And I really have a struggle with this one, Bob. I don't even want to call it a coaching program or a management program, because to me, knowing you and knowing what you do, it's so far beyond those two different definitions. How do you describe yourself as a group?
Well, we struggle with that too, Richard. So we're brothers in that as well. We see ourselves as business advisors, personal growth experts, peak performance trainers. Coaching, consulting are old terms.
And maybe just a chiropractic future and ultimate leadership is a good way for me to look at what you do with the Master Circle. I know I'm going to be speaking with your partner, Dr. Dennis, very shortly today, and I'm excited about that as well. Listen, you've come from a background of being in practice and serving this profession. I know that you've been president of the International Chiropractic Association. You've dedicated your life to advancing this profession. It's been pretty incredible. Talk about your early years of chiropractic and your education and the basic concepts that you started in practice with.
Well, I graduated 40 years ago this year in 1978.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. And I went to New York Chiropractic College, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Man, I was a little kid. I didn't know what I didn't know, but chiropractic got me well. And I went in with a burning desire, and I really applied myself, and I learned a tremendous amount. But there was a pivotal moment for me in January of 1976, when literally a couple of my classmates kidnapped me and took me to Atlanta, Georgia, to this meeting called DE, which I didn't even know at the time what it stood for. And I was in a room with thousands of ultra successful chiropractors, and I got to listen to Dr. Sid Williams speak, and that was it for me. I got committed to this issue of lasting purpose, of giving and giving and loving and serving out of our abundance. I fell in love with chiropractic for far more reasons than I thought it was about. And I quite frankly have never been the same. I went back to school and I became more of an activist, and I became more outspoken, and I challenged more of my teachers. And I started student teaching, and I got committed to upper cervical specific work. And I had an extraordinary experience in clinic. I was so busy in clinic, I don't think I ever participated in any meeting or classroom time, because I was always with patients. And within weeks of graduation, I opened up my office in Oyster Bay, New York. And a lot of my instructors had told us that if you could get to 100 patient visits a week in the first 10 years, you'd be a big success. And I was at 100 patient visits a week in about 90 days. And quite honestly, I wasn't sure if I was doing something right or wrong, but it just kept growing and growing and growing. And so did my commitment and my love and my passion and my certainty. And I grew up as a person, and I grew up as a professional. And I had an amazing 23-year run in practice. The first 10 years completely by myself with a CA or 2 or 3. And then I hired an associate, and then a second, and then a third. And the last 13 years, I always had 3 full-time associates, which quite frankly, Richard, became essential for me because I was getting involved in politics in the ICA. I was getting involved in politics in New York State with the New York Chiropractic Council that myself and a few other doctors formed and founded. I was getting involved as being an entrepreneur in the profession. And at the time, I had 3 little kids at home, and I just needed some balance. And it increased my capacity dramatically. It increased my management and leadership and communication skills dramatically. And looking back, that was another pivotal moment for me.
Wow. And then when did you take over the Master Circle and start this incredible program?
I became part of the Master Circle in 2000, sold my practice in 2000, and been running the Master Circle since and having the time of my life. And a very interesting point is people often ask people like you and me, you know, what's your purpose? What's your mission? My purpose and mission has been the same since I got out of school. I wanted to help as many people as possible express more of the greatness they had inside of them. And I did that as a practicing chiropractor, and I do that in what I do with the Master Circle now. It's just how I do it and who I do it with is different.
And when did you take over the Master Circle? How many years you've been running it now?
18.
I remember the day that I walked up and said, congratulations, you know, 18 years ago.
Yes.
Oh, Lord, no. One of the things you mentioned, and I have to reflect on what you've just said, is, you know, it's about a work ethic as well as that passion that drives it all. But I watch the profession today, and you know, you try to get in touch with chiropractors, and they work like 2.5 days a week because they can make an easy living making, you know, 2.5 days a week. But is that really the service? I mean, is that what it's become about? I have a challenge with this about the profession.
Well, I have a challenge with it too, and I couldn't agree with you more. It seems that there are some of our colleagues, they get out of school, their diploma ink isn't dry, and they think they could work part-time. Here's what I discovered. You cannot build a successful big practice working part-time. You could manage an already successful big practice working part-time if you chose, but you cannot build one. Yeah. I think work ethic is critical, and it's one of the amazing things I got from my parents, you know, as a little boy and watching how my parents worked so hard. I was in my practice 5.5 days a week, got there early in the morning. Most nights didn't leave until 8, 9 o'clock at night. I got to the point that I was seeing 150, 160, 170 people a day by myself. And it was a long day. It was an amazing day. It was a euphoric day, but you have to work hard. And when I became an entrepreneur and a politician and started running the Master Circle as the president of the company, hard work, long days, efficiency, productivity, there are things you have to learn. And these are some of the things, quite frankly, we also teach.
Well, what gets me about the work ethic portion of it, if you're only going in 2.5 days a week, you're not seeing that many people, and you don't get those incredible experiences that chiropractic offers you that builds the passion. I used to walk out of the office at times, I had no idea why I was getting those incredible results, because I wasn't necessarily correcting the vertebral subluxation, but I was seeing incredible kids responding, babies that hadn't been sleeping, and you put your hands on them, and all of a sudden they fall asleep in your arms. And that's the passion that drew me into my practice and my love for the profession. I was going like, what's going to happen today? I mean, this is incredible. I wanted to give every opportunity I could to have that happen. And talking about happenings, we happened to be together in Birmingham, in England. And I asked you to stop by, and something happened to you that day, because there was a shift. Can you want to talk about what was going on in your head when you were talking to me or listening to what I had to say?
I would love to, because I think this is yet another pivotal moment in both of our lives. First of all, Richard, you and I met probably a little more than 30 years ago. We've been dear friends with great respect and admiration for each other for all those years. But we had kind of gotten out of touch. We hadn't seen or spoken to each other in quite a few years. And I was scheduled to speak at a seminar in Birmingham, England. Quite frankly, I didn't have the slightest notion you were going to be there. And I got there early, talk about work ethic. I got there early to check out the room and to see, you know, the size of the room and what the front of the room felt like as a speaker, to kind of get myself emotionally prepared. And I walked out of the room, and talking about work ethic, you were the only exhibitor, quote unquote exhibitor, setting up. And I kind of took like a double take. I remember thinking to myself, is that Richard Barwell? And I kind of walked over to you because you were like so intense on your computer getting things set up. And it was, Richard, and you turned to me and you said, Bob, It was like, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? And you were on fire. You were so excited. You said, I am so excited to see you. I've just created this thing called the NeuroInfiniti. I just want to show it to you. And I would say within 60 seconds, I was hooked. I have always thought chiropractic was about brain function, which is why we get miracles. But we never had a way to monitor it or manage it or interpret it. And it became more of a mechanistic system instead of a vitalistic system that it was designed to be in the first place. And you started showing me some of the brain scans and the over and under arousal and the exhaustion and all these different types of brain functions. And I remember my jaw was dropping. And it was like, Richard, this is amazing, just absolutely amazing. And as you started sharing more and more with that, my brain was just running wild. And for me, what was so pivotal was I loved the NeuroInfiniti. I totally respected who you are and what you did. But for me personally, that was the birth of what you call neurologically based chiropractic and what I've been calling brain-based chiropractic, which are the same thing, just different words. But it all of a sudden, after a long shift in my career of educating chiropractors for a long time, educating patients for decades, it clicked in my mind, this is what we need to really be talking about. This is what Didi and BJ really were all about. And it was taking the history and the heritage of our profession and fast forwarding it with technology and tools and research to create a new chiropractic story. And as you know, because we've run side by side, parallel with each other, arm in arm, the Master Circle completely changed its conversation. It changed its teachings. We started to share a lot of this with our members, brought in great speakers like you and many others. And quite honestly, once we got our doctors to change the conversation, they had to alter how they practiced, which forced Dennis and me to change and create a whole new model of chiropractic practice with new case history questions, new exam procedures, new adjusting protocols, new business models, new communication models. And I don't know that you even know this, but I am extraordinarily happy to report to you, we have never gotten better statistical growth with our members than ever before since we've been doing brain-based wellness and brain-based chiropractic. I
got goosebumps and my scalp just went tight. I have to tell you this. I had been doing this concept, presenting this concept for a few years before we had that wonderful opportunity to get together. You're the only leader of the profession, the only leader in this profession that stopped to listen and got the picture. The rest of them would look at me like, oh, that's really interesting, but I don't know what that has to do with chiropractic. And it just, I felt like I was on an island somewhere, that I was speaking a different language to my profession, my peers, and going like, wait a minute, I don't get it. So my hat's off to you to stop for that time. And I know, and Dennis and I will talk a bit about this, I'm sure. I know that it causes waves when you have to go through this change, but coming out the other side, you see that it increases the value and the potential of chiropractic to the nth degree. I mean, it's not even the same ballgame anymore. It's just incredible. So what's your roles or your goals for the Master Circle and this message? What would you like to see happen with the Master Circle and this message?
Well, first of all, as you know, it's been about 7 years now since we've been almost exclusively teaching a brain-based, neurologically based chiropractic practice, teaching it to our doctors all over the world, getting constant feedback. You know, people sometimes ask me, Richard, are you still in practice? And my answer is, of course I am. I'm in about 100 practices every single week. You know, you don't have to be a genius, but when you're Zooming or phoning with doctors of chiropractic all over the world, I speak to about 25 every Monday, about 25 every Tuesday, about 25 every Wednesday, and at least 2 weekends a month I'm on the road speaking to chiropractors somewhere else. If you just pay attention you rapidly discover what always works, what never works, and what works some of the times and under what conditions. And we've been getting great feedback, which has forced us and caused us to, as I said, to create this new model of chiropractic practice, which we believe is the new gold standard in the profession. Everyone's now talking about the brain, and everyone's talking about the nervous system and functional neurology and things of that nature. And just interestingly enough, just 3 weeks ago, we brought in a group of our Winner's Circle doctors, our elite SEAL members, SEAL team members, and the entire one-day event was about this whole concept of neurologically based chiropractic. I developed 3 teams of 2 doctors each that had to prepare their material, but they spoke about how they've now formed a healing team of allied professionals in their office, CAs that have been trained, that are carrying out some of the healing in the office to increase capacity, how it's changed the doctor's role from being the only healer to being one of the key healers, but also the CEO driving their business and the visionary for their business. We talked about how we've gone from when you and I were in practice, and so many people still watching this, that we've gone from recommending at the report of findings a schedule of chiropractic visits to evolving to recommending a package of care that includes a schedule of chiropractic visits, and how the profession, in our view, has evolved and improved dramatically. It's a different game. It's the same game, but a much bigger and better game than ever before. And quite frankly, I am committed to continuing to push that envelope forward as big as I can, as fast as I can, to as many of the chiropractors in the world that I can.
Well, we talked to one of the stars, Dr. Sandy Roga. We did an interview with Sandy. You've seen it, I'm sure. I love that man, and I love what's happened with him. And he's just off and running with it, as all of the people that we've gone to and talked to on this BrainTrust series. It's a great series, and I hope all of your people are joining on and looking at it and commenting on what's going on. I don't know if you've been aware, but I've been putting out an article series on number 16 I'm working on today. It's a step-by-step of working through the concepts of neurologically based chiropractic. So
God bless you. Keep it up.
Listen, I love what's going on with this. The state of the profession right now, what's your viewpoint on where the profession is and what we need to do?
Well, it's the best of times and the worst of times, depending on who you are and what your mindset is. There are a lot of things going on in the profession, as I'm sure you and many of the viewers are aware of, that kind of scares the bejesus out of me. But on the other hand, chiropractic is growing, and it's expanding, and it's adapting finally. You know, when BJ Palmer was alive, and he used to have Lyceum every August in Davenport, every year he would come up and share his findings, his research, his distinctions from the previous year, and basically keep improving and changing chiropractic. This created some raving fans and some people who were very upset, thinking that what I now practice is no longer chiropractic. Somehow when BJ died in 1961, the profession got frozen in time, like that was chiropractic, and it's never supposed to adapt or change or improve going forward. And you and I have had this conversation, and I don't agree with that at all. I think if BJ were alive today, with the research out there, the tools, the technology out there, chiropractic might not even be recognizable to many of us. The principles are the same. The purpose is the same. The understanding and the delivery of the service is different. And for me, there are lots of our colleagues who are adapting and modifying and growing and changing and holding solid to the foundational principles of the profession. And there are others that are still trapped in 1980 and 1990 and 1960. They're still doing the same procedures, the same report of findings, the same pressure on the nerve conversation that's outdated and not backed up by research and not understandable by lay people. You know, I'm a subluxationist. You don't get to be president of the ICA without being a subluxationist. But we have to be honest. 120 plus years later, hundreds of thousands of us telling the chiropractic story millions and millions of times, there's still less than 10% of the population who understands it, gets it, or accepts it. We've got to change the story, and you are, and I've said this publicly, you're one of the founding fathers of who started to change that story, Richard, who created a better, cleaner, more concise, more understandable story that inspires people to want to get their brain and their body checked, that they want to be healthier, they want to be in peak performance. My hat's off to you. And this is what I think is occasionally get frustrated, and we occasionally want to bang our head against the wall. Like, is there anyone out there listening? The truth is, please don't stop, because we are making a difference, and you are making a difference. And I believe the best for chiropractic is in front of us.
Well, I agree with you. And just sort of to close with this thing, I know that there's people watching this that have this question. This is all great, but what can I do to make this change? It's such a great, big, huge change in my practice and my conversation. What would you say would be 3 steps that they could take just to get it started?
Well, first, that's a great question. And I do have some definite answers for you. First, it's not that big of a change. It's a subtle change that you can go to at your own pace. There isn't any rules or regulations to this. It's easy. I'm telling you, in the Master Circle, probably 95% of our doctors have gone through the transformation, the transitional process from however they practice into a neurologically based model. Some went really quick. Some took a year or 18 months to get there. There is no right or wrong. So first, get out of your head that it's something dramatic or radical. You don't have to throw out the baby with the bathwater. It's a process. And you could do that process at whatever speed you want. Second thing is, the biggest problem in chiropractic today is the failure to adapt. We live in a different world. People have different problems. We're in the information age. People know more about what's wrong with them before they show up in your office than you probably know. And we've got to connect to that adaptation and that change in the universe. We're still asking case history questions from 1940. From 1940 that don't apply to the real world anymore. So if you're not willing to adapt, you're going to get left behind. And 3, if I can limit it to 3, is they need to get to a NeuroInfiniti training. They need to get coached. They need to find people and leaders and mentors and influence keys in our profession who are singing the song, who adhere to the principles of chiropractic, who are just as passionate as anyone else about how important chiropractic is, but get that we have to adapt and change without giving up our principles. It's what you do, because I've been to many of your trainings. It's what we do every day in the Master Circle. To me, these are the pivotal steps.
Listen, folks out there that are watching this, I want you to know that you can call Dr. Bob and just say, listen, I want some more information on what to do. You can give them a call. You want me to give you your phone number, please, or give them your phone number? My phone number is
800-451-4514 or 516-822-5500. And my personal email is bob@themasterscircle.net.
And I'm sure that he'll be more than happy to talk to you about what's going on. You can answer some questions. You can also contact Dee Dee at NeuroInfiniti.com, with NeuroInfiniti with an I on the end, not a Y. And she will also have some people that you can speak to that are doing this, that give you some more information. But my recommendations, if you've been excited about this and you really want some coaching on it, the Master Circle is where you need to go. So Dr. Bob, I thank you for your time. You're a busy man, and I appreciate this. And we'll see you somewhere down the road on a stage, I'm sure.
I can't wait. And thank you for the opportunity. And you keep up the great work, man. I love and appreciate you.
Back at you.